Hey, this is Sabrina Monarch of Monarch Astrology and Magic of the Seers podcast. I'm going to be tuning into the new moon in Pisces, and I invite you to like this video, leave a comment at some point, and let me know what resonates with you, and do subscribe to my channel. So, this new moon on February 28th, 2025, 9 degrees of Pisces. It is not an eclipse. However, it is the start of eclipse season, as the full moon right after it will be an eclipse. So, as I've been tuning into this lunation, what really stands out to me is the fact that Mercury is in Pisces conjunct Saturn in Pisces. By the time we get to the full moon, the moon in Virgo will be conjunct the South Node, and the Sun and Saturn will be conjunct in Pisces at that time. So I do think that there is a narrative arc happening with this lunation around finding a greater philosophical frame or greater philosophical or energetic containment for the experience that we're having. The containment part being Saturn. So Mercury in Pisces is a little bit of a difficult place for Mercury to be in. It is very lyrical, poetic, mystical, but it can also be a very overwhelmed or highly saturated, flooded kind of Mercury. So for anyone, who's highly sensitive, the journey, the story arc of being a highly sensitive person is usually a start of a lot of victimization or kind of numbing or escapism or addiction, because I don't know how to deal with all these sense impressions, everything that I'm taking in, everything that I'm seeing, everything that I'm feeling. It's just too much. And no one has taught me how to contain that. So I'm going to numb myself out in some kind of addiction, or I'm going to shut off my perception and lose a big, important part of myself. And there's, yeah, a lot of struggle that goes along with that. And the answer isn't simply repressing the superpower of the sensitivity. It's finding the frameworks that are big and spacious enough, expansive enough, that we can contain that experience that is arising. By the time we get to the full moon, the Sun and Saturn conjunct feels like a shift from, the recognition of the Mercury Saturn, that there's a problem, something is leaky, I'm, spilling, I'm having an experience that's too big, and I don't know how to hold or contain it. Versus the Sun Saturn, where it's like some kind of creative, supportive frame that helps us hold that experience. What I will say, however, too, is that we might need to have the intentionality to be compassionate and to experience expansion. I want to read a quote from Eli Marcus that I thought was really apt here. Quote, "Many people have been tricked into self-oppressing routines for the rest of their life, all due simply because their perception of reality is grossly limited and in misalignment with a more desirable life path. They are often unaware that a simple sequence of the right new choices would increase the quality of their life beyond their comprehension. I've noticed people tend to have their greatest breakthroughs when a teacher or guide has penetrated their perception of reality into an expanded frame. That's all most people really need, an expanded frame." An expanded frame. That's so good for Saturn and Pisces. So I was thinking about the possibility that there might be a lot of shame and contraction also coming along with this lunation, because we are releasing some perfectionism patterns, and the perfectionist is also a punisher, right? It's like when we fuck up or make a little mistake, and that super mean, nasty part of us that comes online to judge and berate and really not let us off the hook for how much we fucked up and what we could have done differently. And we're just like chewing on it and ruminating and whatnot. That is a possibility, right? Like when Saturn is present, it brings facility and container and holding, and it can also be oppressive or punishing. So I thought about religion, for example, and how there was maybe a philosophical desire to create a moral structure or moral codes But there was also a pretty heavy handed way of creating this concept for people that if you don't do life right, that you'll go to hell eternally, right? Eternal damnation. That is really intense, okay? To say the least. There's this idea with the Virgo Pisces axis that even if you're not religious or weren't raised religious, that there's kind of like a archetypal memory around this axis in that Pisces represents God and the universe and oneness, and Virgo is that kind of alignment principle. And so, this idea that it's grave, that it's a disaster to fall out of alignment because the consequences are so severe, creates a lot of fear and constriction and intensity and really high stakes around some things, which may not actually be that high of stakes. So internally, it may not be the languaging that, you're going to hell, but it could be that you said something wrong, or maybe, you acted in a way in a situation and it's had negative consequences. And that sense of just being really emotionally on the hook to be punished still, to berate yourself, to accept that from the environment, etc. And that it's a frame. It is a philosophical frame that is holding this narrative. You did bad, you messed up, and now this is the, consequence and this like heavy blanket over you. And what if there were another way to look at the situation? Simply, right? Like there's energy moving through our lives, through our bodies. There are impulses or instincts that we have had or had. There's the things that just come out of our mouth, accidentally, or there's our desires. Like there's just how we've been impacted or how we respond to certain situations. And when our philosophical reality frame can't hold our life experience, can't hold what we're feeling or sensing, we look to repress it. We look to make it go away. We look to make it wrong. And then this is creating a lot of turbulence and difficulty for us. So the question, I think, for this lunar cycle is, where is your frame not big enough in some sense that there's all this material that's pushing at the edge of it, and there's this pressure between what is in your experience, the simple facts of your experience, and this story weighing down on it that it's somehow wrong or that you're wrong for being that way or feeling that way. Yes, there may be a desire to be a moral person or to be the best version of ourselves that we can be. And if our frame is making everything wrong, how conducive is it to the actual dream that we're trying to bring into creation? One of the greatest gifts of Pisces is its mystical connection, this transcendent connection to the beyond, this inner knowing and remembrance that we literally are love, right? And that when you tune into your higher self, that love of the cosmos, of God, however you look at it, and actually weave it through the 3D existence, show up to life, to your relationships, to the world, to even yourself, starting with your relationship with yourself, showing up with a kind of love that creates a ripple effect that literally makes the world a better place. That's an expanded frame. And there's a connection inside of that frame to something beyond what we can immediately see. And when our frame is collapsed, I wouldn't say it's not possible to have a breakthrough and get past the frame. It just makes things a lot harder. And it also keeps us kind of like locked into these power struggles or fights or resisting what is. So, in closing, my thematic prediction for this new moon or this lunar cycle, this lunar month, is that we are releasing some perfectionism and punishment patterns, and we are looking to develop an expanded perspective that fosters a greater sense of forgiveness, love, possibility, positive momentum. Obviously, some of these places are very gritty and very difficult. And if we had known how to hold these things before, we would have. It's possible that we were never taught. It's a thing passed from culture or from family. We didn't inherit the expanded frame. So it might also be the creative process opening up to the desire to connect with something greater. I think that's actually one of the main points of prayer. It's not just like to get what you want or something or to get specific results that you pray for. It is the act of opening up our consciousness to something much greater and vaster than us. So we open our perception. We also open our willingness to see new possibilities. I think that constructively, somewhere during the lunar month, there may be allyship with spiritual elders, with people that are wise, with people whose perception like opens up something more sparkly and free and full of possibility within us. And that all of this may be happening with a kind of resonance or groundedness with where there is actual pain, where there is actual disappointment. I'm not talking about platitudes or, throwing sparkles on something and not addressing the root or the foundation. Saturn, Sun, and Pisces feels like a very important, grounded, I recognize the pain that you're in, or I recognize how fucked up this situation has been. And here's a way to be with it in a new way that allows you to relax and open and receive more in this life. Cutting edge emotional evolution. Don't be surprised, however, if you do have things surfacing, if there is a kind of inner critic that gets kicked up, notice it, but see if you can find some higher ground with it. I'm going to leave us there. I'll be back again soon. Again, please like this video and leave a comment and let me know what resonated with you.